Vidhammer Fantasy.
Welcome back to Vidhammer. I'm Spudlow, bringing you another battle report, this time the first game from the team tournament that happened 2 weekends ago, February of 2014, whatever day that was. In this game, I didn't go in having a teammate. I showed up and there were 4 other teams that were already there, but one person showed up just before the tournament started with Empire. So me and him grouped up and decided to give it a try, and we actually did pretty well. In this first game, we go up against the Dwarves and the Empire. This is before the 8th edition came out. This is actually on the day that the new Dwarven book was released. Give you a quick rundown of me and my teammates' army lists. I'm taking the Skaven again. I've got a Grey Seer with a Power Scroll and the Talisman of Preservation, 4+ word save, necessary because he's my general in this one. I don't have enough points to bring a Warlord, since each army has 1,500 points, and you have to have a general in both sides, even though only one side gets to have a BSB, or both sides get a BSB, but only one of the BSBs is actually functioning. And only one of the generals actually gives Inspiring Presence. So I've got a Chieftain BSB. He's got the Banner of Verminous Scurrying. That's one where I get to march at 3 times my speed once during the game, but I take damage. I didn't actually use it in either game, though. And I've got a Assassin with Weeping Blades and the Potion of Strength. He's nice to have around, though he doesn't see a whole lot of action in this game. Then there's a Warlock Engineer as my last character. He's a level 1. And he's got the Doom Rocket and the Warp Energy Condenser. Then for my units, I've got a block of 53 slaves with a Paw Leader. You know, I don't take shields with them because it's cheaper just to buy more slaves than to actually purchase shields for them. Then I've got my 1 block of Clan Rats, 40 Clan Rats with a Warp Fire Thrower team. This is really just to be a second slave block. You know, I made 2 blocks that were large because I'm expecting there to be small type of Death Stars in the units in the armies that we're going to go up against. So I wanted to have a couple of big blocks that are just going to basically be a deterrent, take a while to chew through. If they kill them off, it's not that big of a deal. The other things that I've got a Hell Pit Abomination, Warpstone Spike, so he's got magical attacks, 1 Warp Lightning Cannon, and a pack of 5 Gutter Runners. And that's it. That's my entire army. For Jason, who's running the Empire, he's got the damage-dealing side of our army here. Mine is basically to get in the way and take the damage. His is going to cause the damage, because he's got a Templar Grandmaster on a Warhorse with a Talisman of Protection and the Rune Fang Blade. This puppy comes in quite handy. And he's got a Captain of the Empire, his BSB, who's got the Crown of Command to make a unit stubborn. Then a Battle Wizard, level 2, with a Dispel Scroll and the Iron Curse icon. So against a 6+ word save against War Machines, though it doesn't come in very necessary. Actually, I'm not entirely sure if we take it in a couple of places, but that's okay. Then his hammer, as far as his list goes, are 13 Inner Circle Knights. Then he has 2 units of 10 Handgunners, State Troops, about 25, and then 2 Great Cannons, even though we didn't read the list properly, at least when I was reading his list, I didn't read it properly because there was a cannon, and then there was the State Troops, and then on the last page there's a cannon. And I just flipped to the last page and saw that there was 1 cannon, so we only put 1 cannon out. We actually had 2, but we only used 1. That's okay, we just went for hard mode. So that's our army list, and we'll see how it plays out against the Dwarves and Empire as well. Here it comes. So this is a territory scenario where you have an 18 by 18 inch box in the center. At the end of the game, you get bonus points if you can get your general into it, or if you can get core units into it. But it's important to note that the core units only count if they are not engaged in combat. The forest on my side is a normal forest. I actually start out putting my Clan Rats in there. So they start out the deployment with a bunker and some hammers. Each contingency from each side has to put down a unit at once. So both the Empire and the Dwarves have to put down a unit.
Then it's back to us. We do our war machines to buy us some time so we can see what's going to happen. We don't realize until after the tournament that Jason didn't have his second cannon, but oh well, we just went for hard mode. They do their war machines with the organ gun going inside the house, so I'm very careful to keep myself outside of 24 inches of that house the entire game. I throw down the hell pit, trying to keep it close enough, but giving it enough room to get around that central terrain, which we decided to play as dangerous. Their cavalry comes down on their next deployment as long as they're other dwarf block, so I go ahead and put my slaves opposite of their cabs because there's no other place for them to really be needed. The rest of our deployment works out, and then we go for our spells. The dwarves don't have anything to worry about, but on the opposite side, their Empire player has a level 4 that gets Earthblood, Shield of Thorns, Regrowth, and the Dwellers Below. It's also important to note both of their warrior priests, one of them goes in each of the dwarf blocks, so that they can buff those blocks and give them the 5+ ward save each round. Kind of an irritation for us. I didn't know that that would actually work if you were outside of an Empire force, but supposedly so. We just went with it. All of my characters go in with my clan rats. My Grey Seer ending up with Pestilent Breath, Wither, Plague, and the dreaded 13th. Almost the best I could have hoped for there. And my Warlock Engineer, of course, getting Warp Lightning to work with his condenser. Jason has level 2, ends up getting Searing Doom and Glittering Robe from the Lore of Metal, I believe. They win the first turn, and other start of game elements. I get 2 Warpstone tokens, and then I throw my Gutter Runners down right in front of his steam tank to either force it to shoot at the Gutter Runners, or the Gutter Runners can potentially charge the flank of the tank. I know the Gutter Runners wouldn't end up winning that combat, but they could hold it up for a turn, perhaps. Over to first turn, movement. The steam tank uses 2 of its points for movement, goes 5 inches. Then, other things kind of jostle around a little bit, but his cavalry didn't want to get way out in front because he knows if he does, I'm just going to charge my slaves out there. So he's trying to stay back enough, but trying to get himself to where he can do something eventually. Magic ends up 9 versus 6. We have to split the Dispel dice between me and Jason, so each of us gets 3, making it a little bit more difficult for us, since I have a level 4 and he has a level 2. The first 3 dice go for Earthblood on the Halberdiers. We let that one go. Then there's 3 dice for the Warrior Priest spell to give the Warriors a +5 ward save. And Jason uses his Dispel dice on that one. Then the last 3 for the same thing on the Hammerers, but I go ahead and dispel that one. Next is shooting. Both of the cannons shoot for my Warp Lightning cannon. Both of them actually hit, and fortunately for me, both of them only do a single wound, so it stays alive with 1 wound on it. The steam tank flames at the Gutter Runners and only manages a single wound because of that 6+ ward save the Gutter Runners have. Nice job, guys. Then the driver in the tank actually gets to take his shots as well with a repeater pistol, but it doesn't actually do any wounds. So they stick around, they don't have to take a panic test, which is good because they're only leadership 7. I roll triple 1s for the Hell Pit, and it goes berserk and actually hits Jason's handgunners for 1 wound. Then the rest of our guys kind of move up, but I keep myself outside of the 24-inch of that house. And I managed to get my casters within range, though, which is nice since they're on the outside of that clan rat block. Magic is 5 versus 4, but the dwarfs steal 1, so it's actually 4 versus 5. Jason uses 2 for Searing Doom on the steam tank, but doesn't cause any wounds. Then I have 2 dice for Warp Lightning on the cavalry, but it gets dispelled with their 5. Magic is pretty much useless for us during most of this game. For our shooting, the cannon shoots for the steam tank, but falls short. Handgunners aim at the warriors, but don't get any wounds. But the Gutter Runners actually get some 6s and manages to kill off one of the cannons on their side. Then my Warp Lightning cannon shoots for the cavalry, but it decides to fall short as well. Now, on the start of the second turn, the steam tank uses 5 dice for a charge into the cavalry, but we found out much later on in the tournament that you can't actually use more than 3 dice to do any specific action with the steam tank. So they could have used 3 for the charge and then 3 for something else. But we didn't know at the time, so they used 5 and they charged into the cavalry and subsequently used 5 dice in the combat phase, which is kind of nasty, but oh well. Magic is 10 versus 6. The first 2 for the Prayer on the Warriors. Jason dispels that one. Then a Prayer on the Hammerers, and I try to dispel with just a single die since it was such a low casting cost. And of course I roll a 1, so my Grey Seer doesn't get to dispel anymore this round. Then there's 2 for Earthblood on the Halberdiers, which gives them the regen save. The last 4 for Dwellers Below, but the spell fails. Cannon kills off the Warp Lightning Cannon this time, and it causes 2 panic tests, but we pass them both. For our first combat, the Steam Tank is able to kill off 6 of the cavalry. Then the General, with his awesome sword, which ignores armor save, hits the tank and does 4 wounds. That's pretty awesome. Cavalry lose the combat, but they're steadfast, so they pass the break test, and now it's going to be over to our turn. That General is the only thing that's going to do any damage to that tank, and that's just the perfect place for him on the entire board. For us, since we're looking at things, realizing we're probably not going to go through too many turns, and not really wanting to get the Hell Pit out there and give them points for it, since we're doing pretty well range-wise, I decided to go ahead and have the Hell Pit move back towards our line rather than going forward. And we're just going to basically go for points denial, try to kill off the Steam Tank, and go that way for the win. Magic is 6 versus 4, and they steal one of mine. So Jason's got 3, and I've got 2. Jason goes for Searing Doom, and he's able to put 2 wounds on the Warriors. Then I try to use 2 for Warp Lightning, and they dispel with their 5. They just don't like my spell for some reason. Our cannon kills their cannon. The Gutter Runners put 1 wound on the Warriors, and then the Handgunners get a couple as well. I wait on the Doom Rocket since there's still a long distance and I'm not exactly sure what I want to use this on. Our turn, Steam Tank doesn't get to do anything. General gets another 3 wounds, so we're doing good there. Not much movement on turn 3. Basically, he's just trying to get things up to where he can do something next round. We're looking at the clock and realizing we're probably going to get one more full turn in. So you want to get your guys into that box, and more importantly, they want to try to get within charge range on turn 4, because they know we're not going over there. Magic is 4 versus 4 this turn, and they use the first 2 for the Prayer on the Hammers, and I dispel that one with the Grey Seer. The next 2 for Earthblood on the Warriors, but we don't get the dispel off on that one. Then to shooting, the Anvil tries to do its shooting attack on the Warp Fire Thrower, and it hits it for 2 wounds. I save 1 with the 4+ Lookout Sir for being within 3, and I always forget that those guys have a 5+ armor save, and they're getting hit with Strength 4, so they actually get a 6+, and they make the 6+, and they stick around. Yay! As we move into combat, the camera shuts off because I had it plugged into a power strip, but the power strip was not turned on. So my camera was actually working off of the battery the whole time. It did the best that it could, but it runs out at this point. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what actually happens. The Steam Tank is able to finish off the cavalry. I think it actually overcharges again with like 5 points. But, oh well, we deal with that stuff. But the General is able to kill it off in its attacks. So Steam Tank dies, but all of the cavalry are dead effectively, so they get that unit cost. Then it goes over to us. The Gutter Runners try to, move up towards the Anvil. Magic is 7 versus 4. There's 5 dice for Glittering Robe to give the ward save to everyone within 12 inches of his General. Then I use 2 dice and 2 Warpstone tokens with the Dispel Scroll to go for the dreaded 13th on the Hammerers, but I still don't get high enough. Spell fails. Shooting, the Long Gunners hit the Warriors for 6. The Gutter Runners manage to do a wound to the Anvil, but it gets saved. That thing having its high armor save, there's no way anything's going to get through that. Then I go ahead and cap off the Doom Rocket on the Warriors for 9. That's what we were trying to do, was batter those Warrior unit down. Heck with the Hammers, go for the Warriors, focus on the one that had the smallest number of models, and see if we can try to take it out by the end of the game. Then it goes over to Dwarf's turn 4. He charges with lots of things. The only one that ends up making it is the cavalry into my Clan Rat block. The Hammerers and the Warriors charge some of the Empire units, the State Troops and the Handgunner unit, but neither of the Dwarf units actually make it into combat, so we don't have to worry about those. Magic is like 12 versus 6 this last time. He uses 6 dice and he goes for Dwellers Below on the lone general because he was outside of his unit, so he couldn't hide. Gets Irresistible Force, kills off Jason's general, and we're like, oh, that's so irritating because that buys them really the points they need. Because in this tournament, you're going by standard book rules, so as long as you destroy more than 100 points more than your opponent, then you get the win. So we're looking at this and we're like, yeah, we've got the loss now. But in the backlash, their general dies, and the unit that's around it all take the strength 10. They're all within the blast template, and the unit actually dies. So that whole unit of his bunker that was behind there, we get that entire unit worth of points. And they're left with just 2 characters left in there, the BSB and I think one of the warrior priests moved in there for cover. So now they're both just standing out in the open. He goes for the Anvil's like ancient power, and they end up getting it. It does a few wounds to several different things. The main thing is that the handgunners, Jason's handgunner unit, takes 3 wounds. They take a panic test and they fail it, and they run off the board. But we're still in the lead points wise, so we're doing okay. Then in combat, it's the cavalry. Oh no, the cavalry did not charge my clan rat unit. They charged the warp fire thrower. I did like a stand and shoot. I don't even remember if I wounded anything, but they hit the warp fire thrower. They kill it, and then they overrun into my clan rats that are directly behind. That was the difference there. I can't tell since there's no actual camera footage. Then for our turn, I have the Hell Pit run away some more. The slaves and the state troops move up just inside of that 18-inch central box area to grab us the points. Then in Magic, I'm able to get like Wither off on the cavalry, but I think I forget about it during the combat phase. Then the cannon kills off one of the lone characters and ends up getting us like 90 points for that one. Then we have our final combat of Clan Rats versus his cavalry. And even though I have my assassin pop out, I did drink the strength potion at the start of my turn. I did remember to do that, thank goodness. But there aren't any characters in the cavalry unit, so it really doesn't matter. I basically just popped my assassin out so that I could move my BSB out of the... or I might have moved my Warlock Engineer out. But I've used one of my characters out of the first rank to keep my... so that my assassin could go up there instead of the other character. The assassin was a little bit better. It has the 4+ ward save. But it didn't matter. We did wounds to each other, but none of my characters died off. My unit doesn't die, his unit doesn't die, and I'm steadfast past the break test, and that's the end of the game. So they end up giving us the win without worrying about adding up the points, and we get 2 bonus points for having the state troops and the slaves inside the box. So we start out first round with 22 points. Yeah. Hope you liked the battle report, and next time I will try to make sure that the power strip is on. I do actually get the next 2 games recorded fully, even though we don't play in the 3rd game. And we'll have those up soon, and we'll get the links for you as soon as I get that thing done. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, keep fighting.